So I've pre-measured 150 grams of cornmeal. The type of cornmeal I use is one that's easily available in the grocery store. It's been degermed or degerminated so that it won't go rancid. And you can usually find a regular cornmeal in any grocery store. So I have 150 grams of the cornmeal. We need 125 grams of all-purpose flour. Next, we are going to be putting in 50 grams of white sugar. So we have the cornmeal and the flour and the sugar. We need 7 grams of salt. We're going to put in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Which is 7 grams, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. It should be about 3 grams. Okay, now we have put in our cornmeal, 150 grams, our all-purpose flour, 125 grams, white granulated sugar, 50 grams, salt, 7 grams, baking powder, 7 grams, and baking soda, 3 grams. We'll mix that all up. Okay, we now have the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients, and I'm going to be pouring the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. We'll stir it just until it comes together. We don't want to stir it too much. These type of quick breads, if you stir them too much, it will develop the gluten and they'll be tough. So you always want to stir them gently and just enough to incorporate. Now I have a loaf pan here. It is a 9 by 5 by 3 inches deep. And I'm going to pour this cornmeal batter in. Okay, and we're not quite done yet. I'm going to set this aside. Now we're going to make some butter crumbs to put on top of our cornbread. I have pre-measured here 60 grams of butter, and I will be adding 85 grams of all-purpose flour, and we need 25 grams of sugar. Now I'm going to get in there with my hands. I'm going to turn this into crumbs. The butter was softened. These are wonderful butter crumbs. If you add just a little more sugar, you can put them on top of muffins or banana bread or pumpkin bread. I use them quite often for that type of bread. So you want your butter crumbs to be crumbly and not too dry. And these look just about right, so I squeeze them a little bit so I can have bigger crumbs. So you can see this is what they look like. Now we'll pour them on top of our cornbread. My family likes plenty of these butter crumbs because they're just so good. Now the last thing I'll do is I will push the crumbs in just a little bit, here and there, so they kind of work their way down into the batter a bit. Okay, now our cornbread with crumb topping is ready to put into a 400-degree oven. Wanted to show you how the cornbread's doing now that it's been in 30 minutes. It seems to me to be like the crumbs are browning a bit quickly, so I'm going to put a little tinfoil tent over the top. and hopefully that will shield them a little bit from being over browned. I checked our cornbread loaf after 45 minutes and it was only 170 degrees Fahrenheit, so I put it in for 10 more minutes and I just took it out and it's over 200. So it's done. It's 206 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 96 degrees Celsius. Doesn't it look pretty with the crumbs on top? We'll let the cornbread cool and then we'll slice into it and see what it looks like. I will be removing it from the pan after it cools for about 5 or 10 minutes. Well, here's our cornbread with crumbs. It came out really nice. After 10 minutes, I removed it from the pan. It was stuck a little on the bottom. I had to loosen it carefully with a knife, but it came out fine. And as you can see, the crumbs make a wonderful addition to this bread. So I will let this cool completely, and then we will slice into it. This bread took 55 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit to cook completely through. If you were to double the formula, you would have 2 nice loaf pans of cornbread. Here is our cornbread that we made in a loaf pan, and it has a crumb topping. It is about a 2-pound loaf. It's around 1 kilogram. So it's time to cut up this bread. Let's take some slices of this sourdough cornbread with the crumble topping. Boy, doesn't that look delicious. Here's what our sourdough cornbread looks like. Now we can finish it off with some honey butter. Here's our honey butter. It's nice and creamy and soft. It's made by mixing soft butter and honey. The bread is still a little bit warm.